Let's talk about a story that pretty much everyone has heard, the parable of the prodigal son. It feels familiar, right? But what if the way we usually hear it kind of misses the main point? What if this story is actually a deep, profound challenge about who we're meant to become? Let's dive in. So you've got the father, and you've got his two sons. The story immediately makes you ask yourself a really personal question. Who's the role model here? Is it the younger son who messes up and comes back? The older son who never left? Or is it someone else entirely? Answering that question is the key to the whole thing.
All right, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the deeper question this story is asking. Then, we're going to get into the flaws of both sons, the one you see right away and the one that's kind of hidden. After that, we'll focus on the real hero of this story. And we'll wrap up with the powerful choice that this parable puts right in front of us.
So what's really going on here? This isn't just some ancient family drama. No, it's a direct picture of the kind of person God is trying to shape us into.
The setup is super simple, right? A father and two sons. That's it. It's a powerful metaphor for God's relationship with all of us. And to really get what it's saying, we have to be willing to see ourselves somewhere in this picture.
Okay, let's start with a character whose mistakes are just out there for everyone to see, the younger son. But his real problem, you'll see, is so much deeper than just bad choices.
The thing that's really eating him up inside is self-condemnation. After he hits rock bottom, he walks home practicing this whole speech about how he's not worthy to be called a son anymore. He's got his father all wrong. He thinks he has to earn his way back into his father's love, instead of realizing it's just there.
And wow, doesn't that sound familiar? We do this all the time. We get so tangled up in our past mistakes that we convince ourselves we're not worthy anymore. We basically put ourselves in chains of guilt, which makes it impossible to accept the love that's being offered, because just like him, we've misunderstood the heart of the Father.
Now, let's talk about the older son. And honestly, this is where the story completely flips on its head. We think we know who the bad guy is, but the older son's story reveals a much sneakier and maybe even a more dangerous kind of brokenness.
I mean, on the surface, this guy is perfect. The model child. He stayed home, he did all his chores, he was hardworking, obedient, you name it. To everyone looking in from the outside, he's got it all figured out.
But what's really going on under the hood? The return of his younger brother is like a switch that flips, and suddenly everything that was hiding inside comes spilling out.
And here it is, the ugly truth he was hiding. All that hard work, it was covering up some deep resentment. His obedience, it was really just self-serving, a way to make sure he got his inheritance. And that righteous attitude, it was a mask for a cold, judgmental heart. He wasn't serving his father out of love, he was serving himself.
The second his brother came home, the mask just shattered. He was absolutely furious. His ego flared up, What about me? Where's my party? He actually gets mad at his own father for being loving and generous. He couldn't see his brother as a person anymore, only as a collection of sins.
So with both sons completely lost in their own ways, we finally turn to the true center of the story, the heart of the Father. He is the answer to both of their problems, and he is, without a doubt, the real hero.
I mean, just look at how he reacts when his younger son comes home. The kid can't even get his "I'm not worthy" speech out before his dad is throwing a party. There's no lecture, no "I told you so." He just shouts with joy, he was lost and now he is found. That's it. Forgiveness is instant and total. And then look how he treats the older son. It's just as incredible. The son is angry, he's accusatory, but the father doesn't get defensive. He just gently reminds him, "My son, you are always with me and everything I have is yours." He tells him who he is, even when the son is filled with bitterness. So get this is so important. The father never, not once, says a single word of blame to either son. His only desire is to have his kids with him, in his house. And the only tools he uses are unconditional love and radical forgiveness. He is the one we're meant to be looking at. So what do we do with all this? Where does that leave you and me? The story just kind of stops, forcing us to realize we have to choose a path for ourselves, one that moves beyond the broken mindsets of both sons.
The big takeaway here isn't to become a better version of the younger son, always looking over your shoulder at your past mistakes, and it's definitely not to become the older son, who does all the right things but has a heart full of anger and judgment. No, we're being called to something way, way bigger.
At the end of the day, it's a choice between two completely different ways of living. There's the way of the sons, a life built on guilt, shame, anger, and judgment. Or there's the Father's way, a life of forgiveness, unconditional love, generosity, and celebration.
So our calling, the path forward, really breaks down into a few key moves. First, we have to refuse to live in the guilt of the younger son. Second, we have to let go of the judgmental anger of the older son. Third, we have to truly accept and embrace that forgiving father's heart for ourselves. And then, the final and most important step, we become people who turn around and show that exact same love to everyone else.
The parable ends with the older son standing outside the party, stuck. He has a choice to make, and it leaves us standing right there with him, facing the same choice. The point of this whole story isn't just to make us feel loved by God, it's to turn us into people who live out that love. So the real question for all of us is, today, how are you going to choose to show the Father's love?